What up, Keyston? What's good, guys? I'm gonna get started in about a minute. All right, let's get started. I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, but I know with the recent price action, like it's the right thing to give an update. So I'll get right into it. So you could see right after this weekly monthly trigger crossover, because the daily trigger got above these two triggers, and because the weekly and monthly were strong bullish, we were able to see the daily trigger act as a very strong support level that held on all these dips from around like beginning of December for about a month. It was very supportive for price. Price was able to get a big push up. The difference from the trigger acting like it was here to here is very big. You could see, for example, these dips. This one went right through the daily trigger and then came back above. This one like pinned around it for a while. This one sliced right through. This one like couldn't really get any good action, neither here. But then once the weekly trigger got above the monthly trigger, we started to see a major shift where the daily trigger would act as this strong support and strong guide for dip buyers to show up while GME pushes higher. Now, I made the mistake of thinking it would happen, around here is when I said, like around that December 20th. And I shouldn't have really, I guess, focused so much on when it'll happen, as opposed to the fact that GME, after getting its bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover, is going to continue getting bought up on all dips, whether a small dip or even a larger dip, until a melt up forms, similar to like the price action that we saw here. So again, you could see the constant support that the daily trigger had, and then I thought it would be around here. And unfortunately, I guess there was just a lot of hype built up with RK tweeting again, and I guess like I would say there was a much bigger tinfoil going around lately than we've seen in many months. I would even say years. Like it was really spreading, and people were really getting excited about it. And yeah, I mean, I have no blame on RK or anything like that, but I guess that got me a little too overhyped, that it'll happen sooner than it actually would. And I think that's kind of what hurt me, is just taking him tweeting as a sign to mean that, okay, like this is it, like we're close. Because last time, when he tweeted, it moved the stock a lot. And I'd rather be wrong, than miss this kind of move. So I took that risk, and that's a gamble that I took, that I chose to take, knowing the risks. My invalidation was the daily trigger here. So once that broke down, I had to exit the trade. But I don't want anyone to misconstrue that as there is no melt up or like the trade is off the table. This was a very solid uptrend that lasted 2 months. Price moved 68% to the upside. Very, very beautiful move. Take a look right here. So this was the candle that broke through all 4 triggers. If you guys remember back then, this is called the 4 trigger cluster. So hourly trigger, weekly trigger, monthly trigger, daily trigger are all next to each other. And price was able to break through them. like so. And so that we call it a 4 trigger cluster, and we're calling for a big move to happen. We're tweeting about that a lot. And since that 4 trigger cluster setup, GME moved 65% to the upside. So obviously, very strong move. And this current move was invalidated to be the melt up move once price lost the daily trigger, meaning now there's probably going to be a little bit of downside, but the next upside move, which is going to come from around near the weekly trigger, can very well be the one. So if we look back at 2020, you'll notice just so many times it looked really good, like price moving above all the triggers looked really good, and then we'd see these really big pullbacks out of nowhere. Like even here, this thing was going parabolic. Like this, if you were in this trade right here, you definitely think, okay, this is squeezing, and then boom, complete rug pull. And if you guys thought this was bad, imagine what this was like. 37%. This downside move is like not even 20% yet. Imagine what these guys had to go through. 37% downside flush when you think things are squeezing. So with these type of moves, you can't really play them with shorter dated options, and like expect guaranteed results. Yes, you'll more than likely get the melt up at some point, but if you're messing around with shorter dated options, and you have a similar thing where everything looks perfect and prices above all triggers and everyone's hyped and we're breaking key levels like 30 and RK is tweeting and there's just a lot of great signs, if you take that bet with shorter dated options, sometimes you'll hit this. And you'll be a millionaire the next day. But other times you're going to hit something like this. And that's why if you're going to play these shorter dated options, you have to have a plan, like to exit as soon as you know things are looking bad. Like for me, I was like buying in this range, thinking that like this was it. And if price lost the daily trigger, like that was my stop loss. That means I'm wrong about the trade. I take my loss. I wait for price to pull back near the weekly trigger, and then on the bounce, that's when you make back, a lot of your losses. And then if that bounce turns into a bigger move, then you start going back into profit. But you're basically playing all the moves on GME, all the bullish moves on GME. But when price loses the daily trigger, that's when the hourly and the daily turn strong bearish, and you're gonna have some downside. Like that's it. You're gonna face some downside. So if you're gonna play these shorter dated options, have a plan. But either way, it looks perfectly fine to me. We lost the daily trigger a couple of times here. Price action is similar, looking like it's about to take off and then rug pulled. So we might even have another one or two of them. Maybe this was one already. So like maybe there's going to be one more. Maybe the next one's going to be the move. But like this is a great sign. This is the pre-squeeze price action. Like it's good that we're seeing this. In fact, if you've done any studying on this move, you'll know that these deep flushes were a common occurrence as price increases volatility, as price gets ready for some real short covering. Like this is a good sign, this increased volatility. It's not a great sign for shorter term options traders. I mean, that's the truth. But for people that are holding the stock because over the next year or so they want to see it at much higher prices, this is a great sign. Pick your spots for the dips. You get good options buys. You get good share buys. You could get good dip buys during the time period on the way up. Like here, all you had to do was dip buy every time price came near the daily trigger, and you would have been fine, knowing that the weekly and the daily and the monthly are going to have your back. This was a deep flush through, so more than likely, this is a little like air pocket here. The reason why the flush was so quick is because there's no support between the daily trigger and the weekly cloud. So price went straight to the weekly cloud before even trying to find a footing, and we had that bearish hourly trigger, daily trigger crossover there. So we could see like maybe a little bounce out of the cloud into the hourly trigger, and then either rejection down to the weekly trigger or price overtaking the hourly and the daily. But more than likely, there's gonna probably be a little bit more pullback, I would have to say. So yeah, like I remain very bullish. I'm gonna wait patiently until I think that the bottom is in, and from there, I'm gonna try my next spot. But I'm not gonna rush it or get back into it too quick. I'm gonna let it cool down a bit. But again, I totally think that Jamie's still going along these kind of lines, and at some point the pressure will just build up and spill over into a melt up. So yeah, just wanted to give that kind of an update. If any of you guys have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Yeah, I mean, I also thought December was the time frame. Like things seemed to line up very well, uh, but it wasn't. So again, like the only people I think that got hurt in any kind of way was if you took shorter dated options without a plan. That's not what I was doing. So if you're gonna do that off my tweets and you're just gonna follow that without having a plan for your position, like I don't think that's something you could blame somebody else for. Yeah, I saw the LinkedIn pick, but I'm more just focused on the chart right now. Um, and I'm excited for the next move because there's gonna be another move higher, um, and it's probably not gonna be that long. I would definitely say it's gonna need some time to bottom out here, but it's definitely gonna go up again. So I'm just excited to see a bottom form and then give this another go. Hi, Bigly J. Do you think GME will bone to 63 soonly? I think that it's definitely going to get explosive. Um, this dip isn't like the worst thing that could have happened before melt up because if you look at it, price did already move 68% or 65% to the upside. So we would want like this is the wrong tool. A retracement is not terrible to move up again. So you could see like the 0.618 is usually a pretty good spot. Um, 0.618 is usually a pretty good spot. I don't think it's gonna get lower than this. That would be ugly. But the weekly trigger should hold. Um, right now, there's zero concern that it won't. So this is like around the spot where I'll be looking to buy. And if it's more bullish than I thought, and price bounces like at the 0.5 and moves back above the daily trigger, then that could also be a good dip buy for me. Then I'll buy it back above here. But right now, I'm just being patient with it. All right, so 1 second. So for a bottom, we would want to see some bullish divergences. So I wish I took a closer look at this. But you could see a little bit of bearish divergence forming as Jamie was making higher highs. So yeah, I wish I had a cleaner look at that. Um, but unfortunately I missed it. And so that was like a little sign that things were topping. So now we'd look for the same thing upside down. As GME comes down, we'll look for bullish divergences, signs that dip buying is showing up. Um, and then we can more look for a bottom. But like right now, I like just being patient with it. Like it's for me it's more about waiting till I have a lot more confidence in about him than trying to get in early. Like losing the daily trigger probably means that in the short term things are going to be choppy, a little bit downside. I'd much rather get it as close to the weekly trigger as possible. Price target for Jamie and Soul during the melt up. So again, I really don't have like an actual here. Actually, I can do it on here. So the thing with the coin is that it's bearish in the short term because it's below these key triggers. But again, all it takes is like the first 1 hour, the first 5 minutes to an hour of when the actual GameStop melt up starts and things start going crazy. And like everyone is talking about GME and like it goes up 30% in a day or something. This is going to erase months or a month of downtrend is going to erase a month of downtrend in like in an hour. So I'm not too worried because if you look at like past spikes, like 0.41 to 0.85, like this doubled in a weekend from Sunday to Tuesday. In 2 days, it doubled here. So I'm not too worried about it. I DCA when I can, and once GameStop actually starts to explode, that's when like these losses will be erased pretty quickly. So I don't really have any longer term concerns for it, because meme coins are like mindshare. So as soon as GameStop is being talked about by everyone, then I know it'll do well. Hey Youngwell, I'm not worried about anything because the chart is still very bullish on the macro and price is above the weekly and the monthly trigger. I'm doing more streams because I know like some people got a little bit hurt on this recent downside move. So I just wanted to affirm my conviction that I think once this pullback is over, we're going to be right up and running again. I don't think this is like a top that you have to be worried price is going to be going down for months and months now. So I just wanted to bring that point across, because I care about my followers and I don't want them to be filled with anxiety or whatever about the stock. Also, about the weekly cloud, like I think this is it stopped here. I don't really see any signs of a turn just yet. Maybe a little bit. So it could get a bounce, I would say. Possible that it could get a bounce back up to like 29.30, but if it rejects there, then you're probably looking at a move back down to the weekly trigger. Yeah, young Bill, I get it. I get it, man. I get that people got hurt on January calls, but like again, I think it's pretty reckless to hold January calls in the month of January. Like I never hold calls that close, so if you get wrecked, maybe change the approach that you play options. Maybe think about the approach that you're doing and think about if that's the best approach and see if there's a different approach that could work better for you. Like, for example, June calls or having a stop loss below key triggers. I'm not like gonna suggest an expiration because I'm not here for like financial advice, but like for example, if you buy 1 month worth of time like of theta, you're gonna have a much more stressful time than if you buy like 6 months worth of theta. Alexander, yeah, I was hyping it for 2 months and the stock was doing great, but it didn't go, and now you just have to readjust. Like, I was wrong about the time frame that it would happen in. I let myself get overhyped, and my invalidation was hit, and I stopped out of the trade. Like, that's what trading is about. You can have an idea all you want, and it could look really good, but once you always have to have an invalidation on a trade, and that's it. Yeah, I still think 130 is going to get hit for GameStop, and that's it. Like, I would look for this pullback to end, and then I would look for another strong upside move. Anybody else got questions? Why did Jamie sell off? It's a good question. It's hard to know. I didn't see like much news or something, and there was pretty low volume on the sell-offs. Like, I think there was just a lack of liquidity, and there was nothing, like, call buyers stopped coming in, and that's it. It just ended up selling off. No, I'm not thinking about any tin at all. I'm just gonna follow the chart. I think that there's nothing to worry about in the long term because this is very classic pre-melt up price action where the run looks like it's going to be it and things are climbing really, really well, and then there's a big sell-off. So we had it 3 times back here in 2020. So I think we're just following that same pre-melt up price action, and I think at some point this will explode to the upside. Yeah, don't trust in the tin, just trust what the triggers are telling you. So no matter how good the tin looks, if Jamie's below the daily trigger, I'm going to be risk off. Look at AMC. I did see that AMC had a nice bounce today. So for AMC, like, this looks like a capitulation bounce, but above 455 is when I personally get very interested. Like, because if it can break and hold the weekly trigger, that sets up the move to 22. Or like, well, anywhere between 15 and 22 probably stops here first. But right now, doesn't interest me just yet. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Again, I just wanted to get on here and affirm that my confidence is the exact same. I still think that GME is gonna head into a melt up, but I was wrong about the timing. My trade was invalidated with price losing the daily trigger, so I'm gonna accept my loss and wait till the next move. All right, guys. Hope everybody has a good day.